Hey, hey, hey. Hi guys, hey everyone. How are y'all doing? Um this is another video that kind of it's a follow-up from the video that I did last week, I think, about parenting. I'm all about parenting these days. And in the last video I was talking about how it's very important to normalize kids' emotional immaturity, to really normalize that, because if we can understand it physically, that kids are immature, that they're not going to be able to do the dishes properly, that they're not going to drive a car, that they're not going to keep their room clean all the time, that they're not like, if we understand that because they're kids, there are things that they're going to be immature about, um, like understanding that that's the case emotionally, like when they're yelling, when they're fighting, when they're throwing things, when they're resisting your direction, they're being kids, they're being immature, right? They're being their impulse control is taking over. Like, normalize that, you guys. Normalize kids misbehavior. And when I say normalize, I'm not saying condone it, I'm not saying let it be, I'm not saying let it run wild. I'm saying normalize, expect it, anticipate it, get creative about it, about how to guide and educate the kid, right? Because if it's not seen that way, then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to control that misbehavior, make sure it's eliminated, right? I'm going to I'm going to want to like set them straight. I'm going to want to set them straight, and it's going to be a personal business. I'm going to take it personally. Most of us are even going to be driven by a feeling of embarrassment. Like, my kid embarrasses me in public when he yelled or she yelled or they screamed, like, because I'm comparing my kid and whatever. So the bottom line is normalize, and we're going to talk about how normalizing is not being passive, right? Normalizing is not being passive. Normalizing, it means I expect it to happen. This makes sense because I understand that developmentally that's where my kid is. um and so normalize the temper tantrum, normalize when your kid is resistance, normalize when your kid is like throwing themselves on the floor. Normalize that, right? Normalize it. The reason why that's important is not only it's going to help us have a different approach, a healthier approach, but it's also going to help our kid understand that we are steady, that our love for them, our acceptance of them does not waver, does not change. It's stable. Like, when you're behaving well, when you're on your best behavior, and when all of that is going out the window, the way I make you feel is the same. I still make you feel loved, held, heard, right? Um, it's very important because so many of us, we we live through conditional love, like I only love you if you, from our parents, right? And I only appreciate or praise you if you. So when we understood that struggling is something to do in isolation, when you struggle, when you're having a hard time, when you're getting emotional, when you're feeling fragile or vulnerable, like, go hide and do that in your corner. And only when you've gotten yourself put together, back together, come out, and then I'm gonna love you back and I'm gonna praise you back, right? That's very dangerous because it sets the kid to feel like they can only be loved a certain way if they are a certain way, and I think that there's a lot of things to be said about that person's emotional well-being later on in life, you know? Okay, so it's very important to normalize our kids' emotional maturity. Now, what it doesn't mean is to be passive about it, is to let it run wild. We don't want to let it run wild. We want to guide that. Again, I think the punishing is abusive. Punishment is abusive. It hurts the kids' um, growth. It hurts the kids' self-image. It hurts your kids' relationship bond with them. Like the bond that you have becomes more insecure, more induced with fear and disconnection. When you're punishing, when you're hitting your child, when you're yelling at your child, when you're taking the things that they like so much away from them, you think you're going to help them line up, or, like be more aligned with a positive behavior. And maybe you're right, it's going to do that. But be mindful of where that's coming from. They're not aligning with the positive behavior because they have reached the maturity to understand that's the right thing to do. They're aligning with the right behavior because they're scared of you. They're scared of being disconnected from you. They're scared of, like we don't realize how much kids are wired to depend on us as parents emotionally. They get their emotional connection nutrients from us. So when we're like, even when we're like, oh, lovey dovey, and for the time that they're behaving well, and then we flip, like we become this angry beast, or whatever the case is, it's gonna take away their sense of safety or security, emotional security with you. So that's a big no. So punishment is abusive. It's emotional. It's a form of emotional abuse. Oh my gosh, what did I just say? Okay, I feel like I just dropped a big bomb here. Punishment is a form of emotional abuse. I said it. I own it. Take me for my word. Um, and let it. It's okay. It's okay. You can wrestle with that for a minute. On the other hand, being passive about it and again letting the child run wild is not the way to go, because also that is I'm abandoning them in their immaturity. I need to be present. I need to guide them as best as I can. So and I need to understand that the misbehavior is a symptom of something else. There's either an emotional immaturity thing going on, like they need some education, or there's an emotional need going on that I need to understand. The other day, my daughter, I was kissing her goodnight, and all of a sudden she was like, no, 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 mommy, sleep with me. I want you to sleep with me. And I said, I have some work to do. I have to go. And we've spent so much time already together. I was like, no, no, no. So she started like, moving her body in bed. And I was like, okay. So humanly speaking, in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to fight now. Because I started feeling like the frustration going up. Like I made so much time, quality time for this child, and I did not, like this is my time to go do other things. And we've done story time, we prayed together, like go to bed. You all usually do it. What's going on, you know? And then I felt that frustration rising on the inside of me. I was like, oh no, my gosh. Like I can feel myself, like the frustration build up, and I feel myself about to yell. So I breathed. Breathing is a huge tool because I need to regulate myself. If I'm going to teach my kid to be regulated, they need to see me regulated. Okay? So I breathed deeply. And then I realized I put myself in her place. I was like, I wouldn't mind my mom staying in bed with me on a night, right? So I got creative. Instead of like going to war with her, like let's like I'm gonna control this and I'm gonna force you to give in, and you're gonna cry. I don't care, whatever. I'm I got creative. I regulated myself and then I got creative. I said, you know what? She wants some connection. I realized that she was expressing a need of emotional connection. Like her cup was not full yet, right? It's like if your child is eating and they ask for more, it's okay. If they're asking for more food, you're actually going to be happy because you want your child to eat well, right? To be satiated. She was asking for more. Her cup was not full yet, right? And think of it. They spend all day at school and we're working. Like, it makes sense that every now and then she asked for mommy to stay, but I still needed to go, right? So sometimes you can't give in. Like, that was a judgment call for me. What I did, I got creative. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give her my pajama to wear, my pajama. I'm going to give it to her. I'm going to wrap it around her. And so I took it. I said, Kayla, this is mommy's hug. For the time that I'm working, I want you to get into this mommy's pajama and you're gonna sleep in it. She was so happy. She was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cozy!" And she thanked me. She hugged me. She was like, "Okay, have a good day of work," or have good work. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a win! It's a win! It's a win!" Right? And so compromising and negotiating or getting creative are some of the tools, when you understand where the misbehavior is coming from. But if I was thinking that she's just trying to make my life hard, she's just trying to complicate my moments, um, then I would have cut that out. I would have like really landed hard on her. All she needed was emotional connection. And so kids' misbehavior, they come from an emotional immaturity, a skill they don't know how to master yet, or it comes from an emotional need that's not being met or satiated yet.